We all trust our refrigerators, right? They're supposed to keep our food fresh. But what if I told you that for some really common foods, the cold is actually creating hidden dangers? Yeah, today we're going to open the door on the secret hazards lurking in your fridge.
I mean, really think about it. We see our fridge as this shield, right? It's protecting our food. But what if, for certain things, it's actually the source of the problem? Could this kitchen staple, this thing we use every single day, actually be harming our food and maybe even our health?
Wow. Okay, and there it is. That quote gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today. This isn't just about, mushy vegetables or food losing its flavor. We are talking about a potential health risk hiding in plain sight, and it involves one of the most common foods on the entire planet.
All right, so let's pull back the curtain and get into the refrigerator's big secret. We're going to see how a simple act of trying to keep food fresh can sometimes go very, very wrong.
Okay, first up, let's open our first case file. The prime suspect? The humble potato. It's a staple in pretty much every kitchen, but its relationship with the cold? Well, it's complicated. And, potentially dangerous.
Okay, this slide really lays it all out. The whole chain reaction. So here's what happens. When you put a potato in the fridge, the cold actually triggers an enzyme inside of it. That enzyme starts breaking down the potato's starches into simple sugars. Now, the real problem is when you cook those sugars at high temperatures. We're talking frying, roasting, that kind of thing. That's when they can form that chemical, acrylamide. The solution, though, it's so simple. A cool, dark pantry keeps that enzyme asleep. The starches stay stable, and your potato is perfectly safe.
So you're probably wondering, what exactly is acrylamide, right? Well, it's not something that's just hanging out inside the potato from the start. No, it's a chemical byproduct that's created when those sugars we just talked about react with an amino acid at really high heat. And the key thing to know is that it's classified as a probable human carcinogen. That's a big deal, and that's why trying to avoid it is so important.
All right, moving on. Next up, we have two countertop companions that, let's be honest, almost always end up in the fridge: onions and tomatoes. Now, for these two, the fridge causes totally different problems, but it's still the culprit. And as you can see, we're dealing with two very different issues here. For onions, the big enemy is moisture. The cold, humid environment inside a refrigerator is basically a perfect breeding ground for mold. It just turns them soft and gross. But for tomatoes, it's a different story. The cold actually stops the ripening process dead in its tracks. I mean, it literally shuts down the genes that produce flavor, leaving you with that bland, mealy, sad disappointment of a tomato. We've all had one.
And the fix for both of these? It honestly couldn't be easy. These guys are countertop companions for a reason. They thrive at room temperature. Keeping them out of the fridge isn't just about preventing mold or stopping them from tasting like cardboard. It's about letting them be at their absolute best, packed with flavor for when you're ready to use them.
And for our final case file, let's talk about honey. A lot of people think putting honey in the fridge preserves it, right? Keeps it good forever. Well, turns out it does the exact opposite. It actually just ruins it. So here's the science behind what's happening. The cold temperature in the fridge makes the glucose, one of the sugars in honey, separate from the water. Once that sugar is on its own, it starts to form these hard little crystals. And the result? Well, you know what I'm talking about. That beautiful, smooth, liquid gold turns into a thick, grainy, semi-solid lump that's pretty much impossible to drizzle on anything. You think you're preserving it, but you're actually just destroying that perfect texture.
Okay, that was a lot to take in. So let's wrap this all up with a super simple guide to help make your kitchen healthier and honestly, a lot tastier.
So here it is, the bottom line, all in one place. Your potatoes, they go in a cool, dark pantry to avoid any of those health risks. Onions and tomatoes, they stay right on the counter to keep them from getting moldy and to make sure they're full of flavor. And your honey, it belongs in the pantry to keep it nice and smooth. Look at that, 4 really simple changes that lead to a much, much better outcome. This really just goes to show that some of those kitchen rules we all grew up with are totally meant to be broken. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? What other pieces of common knowledge about our food and our kitchens are just completely wrong? Definitely something to think about next time you're unloading the groceries.